Whether it's your morning, afternoon, or potentially evening. I think just afternoon and morning. I'm Emma from Touch Day, and with me is the majestic Neely Khan. Very happy to have Neely with us today. You haven't joined us on a Touch Day webinar for a long time.
I don't think I have ever, so I feel
No?
very privileged and excited.
Well, the premiere then, the first time. Lovely.
Mhm.
And Neely is here to talk us through a topic that is really her area of expertise, which is all about how property managers and hosts can have their properties found in the new burgeoning world of AI-powered discovery. Because the way guests are searching for the trips they want to go on, the places they want to stay in, it's all changing. Google is not necessarily the entry point anymore. It's ChatGPT, it's the other LLMs, it's the chatbots, and that is how people are discovering. And so how we optimize for discovery needs to adapt to this new frontier. So I'm going to kick things off by just talking a little bit about the AI landscape we find ourselves in right now. And I will hurry through my slides because we want to make the most of the time we have here with Neely. So I will just share my screen. Why is this always so hard?
I have so much respect for people who host webinars.
It's just, I never get it right. But I think here we are. Lovely. You can all see my screen. Fab. Alrighty. So let's jump straight in. I'm Emma from TouchStay, as I've already mentioned. And for those of you who don't know TouchStay, we provide digital guidebooks for short-term rentals or vacation rentals if you're joining us from the US. So there's thousands and thousands of Touch Day guidebooks in hands of guests and being used all around the world. And the whole point of Touch Day's digital guidebooks is to save time for property managers and for hosts, and to ensure guests have the best possible experience they can have. And Touch Day is a very feature-rich product, and it's all built around making hosting simple. And it looks like an app, behaves like an app. It has everything that hosts and guests need in one tool. The guests don't have to download anything. It's just a nice link and it lives on their phone. And so it looks like an app, behaves like an app, but it doesn't have any of that friction of the download. So I won't dwell too much on this because we want to crack on today's topic. But if anyone is new to Touch Day and doesn't know what we're all about, here is a nice brief summary. So what is all the fuss about AI? And as I do at the start of every one of my webinars, there is a QR code on the bottom left. And this QR code will take you through to a Touch Day guide, which is my guide to the city of Barcelona, where I live. So if it's really early for you, or you're a bit tired and you just want to have a snoop around a guide and not pay any attention to us, feel free to scan that QR code and take a look. But for everyone else who's keen to do some learning with us this afternoon, we'll jump right in. So what is all the fuss about AI? So we're talking about AI in the context of the STR world, the vacation rental world. And if you're on LinkedIn, you must be thinking that everyone and their dog is using AI and the adoption is through the roof. And if we look at some reports and data points that have come from industry players like Hostaway, and a few others, StayFi, for example, and Guesty, it seems that everyone is using it. So 61% of operators reported using AI last year. Adoption has nearly doubled year over year, particularly among the larger operators, so those with 50 plus properties. And among smaller businesses overall, AI adoption jumped from around 40% in 2024 to 55% last year. And 67% of operators believe that AI is going to change their jobs in the next few years. Okay, so this is the context we're in. Everyone seems to be using it. Adoption is increasing. And within the STR vacation rental world, it is definitely a hot topic. And people are looking for different ways that it can be used to optimize their businesses. But let's take a little bit of a step back, try and remove ourselves from some of the hype and understand where it's being used, what it's actually useful for. Oh, I have skipped a slide. There we are. So where is it being used? So there are a few key areas that this is finding its way to the world. So it's guest comms, so automating responses to FAQs and answering guest questions. Dynamic pricing, so helping operators adjust their prices in real time based on the data and the local demand and competitor data. Listing content, so descriptions, SEO optimization, social media copy, all the stuff you need to get found. Review management, so helping respond to reviews faster, drafting those responses. cleaning and operations, so some task automation there, and predictive maintenance, so flagging potential issues in properties before they actually become a problem for guests. Oh, I have messed up all of my slides. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So one of the ways that TouchStay has started wrapping AI into our guides, it taps into that the most popular way that operators are using AI in their businesses is answering guest questions. So that's of course the first thing that we've done at TouchStay to make this easier for you. So we have an AI chatbot that's now built into the guidebook, and this makes sure that the correct answers to guest questions are served up automatically, and it only uses the guide content and our smart little AI bot. So it's not, we haven't just chucked ChatGPT into our guides to answer your guests with rogue questions. It is a very considered little chatbot that only pulls upon the information within your guide to get answers to guests. So it's not making things up or hallucinating, but it's a really super way that guests can ask questions. And instead of having to search through the guide themselves, they can just ask the little chatbot. And it's a way of enabling guests to self-serve, which is really what we would all like, to have a slightly quieter life. So that's one of the ways that we've started to really help our customers with removing some of the heavy load of the guest questions, which is what we're all about. And we also have a review response generator. So we've built this nifty little tool, and if you scan the QR code on the bottom right of the screen, it will take you to it. We know that responding to reviews drives bookings, and it can even boost conversion by around 12%, which is nuts. So please do be responding to your reviews, whether you're writing them manually or otherwise. And engagement really improves rankings and visibility when you are replying. And customers are more likely to buy from a business that responds. So make sure you're setting some time aside to respond to your reviews. And you've always got a little handy AI helper to help you save some time and ensure that you're building nice, strong relationships with your guests. Super. And we also have an AI guidebook generator. This is super new and is an enhanced version of something that we had in the past. Also a QR code here for you to scan this, and I'll share this later on. But it's really cool. You can put your Airbnb listing or your booking.com listing into TouchStay, and this is the new guide creation flow. So you pop in that link, you answer a couple of questions, you make a few choices, and in just a couple of minutes, this gives you a pretty comprehensive, complete guidebook. So if you're brand new to TouchStay and you haven't given it a go before, this is really mega. And this only came out in this new updated version very, very recently. So you'll be some of the first to use it. It's really cool. So all of this AI stuff is really exciting. There's lots going on. There's so much you can do. And some people that I know on LinkedIn are saying, you can do everything with this. You can absolutely solve every problem under the sun. It's like waving a magic wand. But a word of caution and things that we need to consider. So data quality. AI tools are only as good as the data that you feed into them. So when it comes to pricing and knowing what the correct prices should be, if you're not putting the correct data into the AI tools that you're using, you're not going to get accurate responses out. And so many of the tools that exist on the market today that are using AI to help make things even better, like Key Data, for example, they have just so much data, more data than any individual could scrape or pull together. And it's that quality of data that's super important. So whether it comes to your listing information, your pricing, or just how you're doing competitor analysis, the data that you put in really is crucial to the output that you get. So a word of warning there. Data is not something that can just be created from thin air. You really need lots and lots of historical data to build accurate pictures. So caution. And integration is the next piece. Connecting AI tools to existing systems that you have is the #1 barrier that people are reporting, ranked above the cost and the training teams getting used to things. So thinking about how everything is connecting all together is key to keep in mind. It can be tricky. And a lot of folks also think you can kind of set it and forget it. They'll turn on a tool, won't go in to maintain it or optimize it, and then something will break. And hopefully it won't break when a guest needs something. But these are all things to be aware of. Where every day new things are being released and new versions of tools, new updated models. There's so much to learn. It can feel a bit overwhelming. But we can't just turn these things on and go off to the beach as much as we wish we could. So amongst all of this AI noise, and all of these new tools and everyone thinking that they're a million miles ahead and AI, experts, we're all kind of at the starting line of this new technology and we're all learning. And while the adoption numbers that have been reported seem really, really high, they're not that accurate because this is all self-reported. It doesn't specify what level we're talking about when we mean adoption. Has someone used ChatGPT a couple of times? Are people asking Claude for help? Or do they have a full automation in their workflows? There's really no way for us to know. So when we're hearing these huge adoption numbers and people are panicking, and I'm certainly thinking, gosh, should I be using it more? Actually, most people in this world have never even asked ChatGPT a question. So if you're feeling behind, if you're a bit panicky, there's no need to be. So amongst all of this noise, we need to come back to the core thing that keeps a hospitality business running, which is how can you make sure guests can still find you? Because if guests cannot find you, doesn't matter how optimized your systems are, there's no guests to come and go through them. So at this point, I hand over to the very magical Neely, who will be able to talk us through how all of this is possible. So Neely, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Emma. That was so smooth. So good. I particularly liked your use of the word nifty because we don't hear that very often. And I recently learned where the word nifty comes from. I'm not sure. It comes from the word magnificent because of the nifty.
No.
And I learned that literally a couple of weeks ago, and I was thinking, how has it taken me that long to realize that? So nifty.
That has made my day.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you once again for having me. If it's not clear to everyone in the audience, first of all, thank you again for joining us. It is quite obvious I am a writer by trade. That is my day job. And it's really important that I open up with that because when AI kind of imploded onto the scene into short-term rentals, I, like many others, was thinking the same thing as, oh gosh, AI is here to take over all of our jobs. Humans are no longer going to be, relevant anymore. Creativity is going to count for nothing. And that is, of course, all nonsense. That is not true. My agency, Kahani, which I run now after 10 lovely years of freelancing as a writer, specifically for the hospitality and short-term rental space, our framework, Kahani, is actually the only framework in the hospitality sector that combines AI optimization, so understanding how AI search works, and pairs that with human creativity. And what we say is we help our clients get found in a world of AI, but then also get chosen by human beings. And I say this all the time across all my own marketing. Yes, it's important to get found by AI, but it is just as important to also then get chosen by human beings, because even if all your content across every single platform in the universe is fully optimized for AI, if the human beings who are then finding that content, thanks to AI search tools, they themselves are not connecting with it, they can see no point of difference, then there is no point of them finding you in the first place, because getting found is not the same as getting chosen. So this session is very much about the beginning part, the getting found part of our framework, but I'm going to talk you through it in a way where you don't feel as though you have to sacrifice your brand identity, your tone of voice, or your soul in the process. Believe it or not, there is a way of still being relevant in this AI search-enabled world while still maintaining and even elevating your point of difference. And that's really, really important. So 40% of travelers, according to McKinsey, are now using AI search tools to plan their journeys. And this number is expected to increase to about 60% in 2 years' time. So no longer are people defaulting to just Google. Obviously, Google is still dominating, but no longer are people just defaulting to basic Google searches and then only looking at the search rankings off the back of their Google search. I'm sure you've noticed even when you do search something on Google now, you'll get that AI summary at the top of the page before you get all of your listed results. And a lot of the time what people will do now and we have research to prove this, is that even before looking at the listings, they will read the AI summary that sits on top of it, because of course human beings are complacent and we like things to be made easy for us. As soon as somebody clicks on that AI summary powered by Gemini on Google, what then happens is that you go into AI mode with Google and their AI search tool called Gemini, and you get into a conversation with that LLM. So because of that, it is so very important to ensure that AI search tools not only know that you exist, but they know how to describe you in the right way to the right people at the right time. So what is an AI search tool and what is an LLM? And I think we can go to the next slide here. So lots of people obviously are bandying about acronyms, and there's all these like letters floating around: AEO, SEO, GEO. It's all very overwhelming and very confusing. We want to make things as simple as possible today. So LLMs, that acronym stands for Large Language Models, and it's the collective term used to describe tools like ChatGPT, which is still the most used LLM at the moment, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, which is more of a browser, Copilot, which you have probably come across in your Microsoft Outlook emails, and Meta AI. And there are lots of others, but these are the main ones that people are using. And each LLM actually has a preference in terms of where it takes its content from. So for example, ChatGPT loves Reddit. Claude loves LinkedIn. So it's really important to understand these little nuances across these LLMs as well. If we go on to the next slide. So as we've already established, search behavior has changed. No longer are people just typing, so no longer is a traveler just typing into their Google search bar, luxury cabins, Idaho. You know, people are no longer really searching using keywords alone. They're typing full questions with nuances, conversational questions, detailed questions. And again, it's really important to ensure that the content that we're putting out there is answering these questions. It's a really interesting time for search behavior at the moment. And this is what separates optimizing your copy for AI from SEO. Now, some of you might remember back in the day, in the early noughties, when we used to talk about SEO, a lot of people used to talk about keyword stuffing. So these are your keywords, these are your key phrases. Go ahead and write a blog and pack that blog with as many keywords and key phrases as you can find. Now, obviously, we knew then, and we know even more so now, that that was not and is not a good way of creating content, because although you might have that key information in there, it is not very enjoyable for a human being to read, and it does not really give your brand a point of difference. So in the same way, when we talk about the practice of GEO, which is an acronym you've probably come across, GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization, and all that means is the practice of optimizing your copy so it is showing up on ChatGPT, on Claude, on Perplexity. But how do we make sure, onto the next slide, how do we make sure that STR businesses are actually getting mentioned and mentioned correctly by AI search tools? And this is really interesting, because when I speak to people, and even when I speak to our clients, they immediately presume that the first and the only thing that we need to do is optimize the content on their website. And this is where SEO bad habits get into the way. The most important thing to remember, if you take anything from today, take this. The most important thing to remember is that AI search tools do not just take content from your website. Yes, that is a key pillar of your content marketing, of your PR strategy, but actually AI search tools love taking information from third-party sources, from social media platforms. So when we're talking about optimizing your content and helping you get found on LLMs, we are not just referring to the content on your website. That's just a part of what your GEO strategy should be. Next slide, please, Emma. So really the main goal is, the best way to think about this is think of AI search tools, think of ChatGPT, for example, as your apprentice, right? As a student. Your job is to teach these LLMs as much as you can about your brand and to make them really favor your brand over your competitors. That is all it is. I find that people are really overcomplicating it and, you know, over intellectualizing it. All we are trying to do is teach these AI search tools, because they are dominant, increasingly becoming dominant. We're just trying to teach them how to talk about your brand online and actually do a lot of the work for you. Now, I appreciate we only have a limited amount of time for this webinar. So when I was actually planning this session, I was thinking, gosh, the GEO is so enormous. And then I thought, what is the one way, the one thing that I would love to leave the audience with? What is one key strategy that people can take away with them and start implementing straight away? And I would say the most important part, the heart of any GEO strategy, is EEAT, which we can find on our next slide.
Water break.
Yeah, water break. Yeah.
It's warm.
It's very warm, yeah. So some of you might have come across this acronym EEAT because it's something that a lot of SEO experts use as well. It has been around for some time. But a lot of GEO experts that you might speak to will also mention this too, because it is so relevant. And if you only remember this, and if you only stick to the strategies within this EEAT framework, you will likely boost your AI visibility over a period of time, so long as you are consistent, because obviously consistency is very important too. So EEAT stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. So things you can do to show your experience, your expertise, your authority and trust across various different platforms consistently and simultaneously, which sounds like a lot of work, but actually if we break down each part, it is really not as intimidating as I think some people might find. So if we go on to the first point, experience. So I will let you in on a Neely secret. This is like insider Neely information. People who know me know that I am absolutely, truly obsessed with roller coasters. I'm a member of the World Roller Coaster Club. In my spare time, I read about them. I read about the safety harnesses. I like to learn about just the manufacturers. I was obviously a big fan of Roller Coaster Tycoon when I was a little girl. So one of the examples I wanted to share with you was from a brand called Drayton Manor Resort, which is a small theme park in the Midlands. And I can see Emma getting very excited.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time at Drayton Manor in my youth.
My fellow Midland sister, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about. So when we talk about experience, we are talking about, naturally, how do we say to our audience, we have been doing this for so many years. And if you are a short-term rental operator who has maybe just started out, or you've been in the game for a year, 2 years, I don't want you to feel disheartened. This is not about having decades and decades of experience. It's not a case of, I can only showcase this if I've been in this sector for a really long time. It's about taking the experience you have and leveraging it as much as you can. So the Drayton Manor example, they have been in the game for a very long time, but I wanted to use them as an example because I was so impressed with their strategy last year. So last year, Drayton Manor celebrated their 75th anniversary. And what they've done in the last 2 years is that they've repositioned themselves as a family-friendly theme park. So they used to be known as just a theme park. Now their niche is family fun. So last year, when they were celebrating their anniversary, all their marketing, all their branding, to the point where even some of the entrance points on the rides themselves were centered around this, celebrating 75 years of family fun. Now, this worked really well because obviously to the audience, it comes off as a point of celebration, as a point of fun. But actually, the deeper GEO strategy is that Drayton Manor is also saying to people, as well as AI search tools, as well as the machine, that we have been in the game for 75 years. Like I said, if you have just started out, so say you've been doing what you've been doing, say you've been operating your short-term rental for, I don't know, 9 months, you might have worked in hospitality for a much longer amount of time, so you can make that relevant. You might specialize in, I don't know, maybe there's like a berry farm or something near your property, and maybe you know a lot about berries. You can use that as your experience. Don't be disheartened and just think of the obvious. Where your experience is relevant, talk about it and link it to your service and your product offering. When I first started out in the industry, does not feel like 10 years ago. I can't believe it's been 10 years, nearly 11 years. I had no experience. I had no clients in my portfolio, but I was very good at understanding how my own personal past experience is relevant to the service I am offering. So showcase whatever it is that you've been doing that you think is relevant to your service offering as much as you can across your content. First person stories are great. Sharing your story. A lot of people talk about storytelling. I know it's become a bit of a buzzword. Storytelling is very much my niche. Sharing your founder story, it's so simple. A lot of people think it's cheesy. A lot of people think it's overdone, but you know what? It works. It still works, and it works beautifully well. Just don't get ChatGPT to write the whole thing without it properly first. That's the only thing I'll say about that. Use original photography, case studies if you have them, before and afters of your rooms. So many things you can talk about to showcase your experience. But the most important point here is AI search tools love anything that leans into experience. So if we go on to the next point, how do we showcase expertise? So again, kind of linked to experience in a way, because obviously the more experience you have, naturally the more expertise you will have. Now, this works particularly well if you have a niche. And a lot of the work that we do at Kahani, it sits quite nicely into branding and positioning too. And we often talk to our clients about the importance of just being known for something. Because if you are known for something, whether it's family stays, whether it's couples, whether it's corporate stays, it makes it a lot easier for you to then hone down on that bit of expertise within that sector, within the demographic that you are targeting. Now, when I talk about things like reports and research, operators say to me, well, we're hospitality providers. What are we going to write reports about? And I completely understand that. It sounds quite corporate. But like I said, if you own a niche, and say if your prime time for occupancy is during concert season, because that is where you're geographically located, you can write tons of content about that specifically to really position yourselves as the experts in whatever it is that your audience, that your guests are into. So understand what it is that your guests are into outside of 4 walls, a bed, and a coffee machine, and really understand the intricacies of that and where you can showcase that knowledge. Now, a great way of sharing your expertise, remember we spoke about that this is not just about putting blogs and articles on your website, although that is great, and I definitely am an ambassador of that, but where you can share your content onto other platforms too. So AI search tools, according to the most recent bit of research, again by McKinsey, loves YouTube, right? If you have the time and the resources, setting up a YouTube channel it really is gold for AI search tools. If you don't, or because I do appreciate that's an investment of time, the one thing you can start doing straight away, and this blew my mind when I found out how actually valuable it is to AI search tools, is posting on LinkedIn. Posting on LinkedIn is something that most people do anyway. ChatGPT and Claude love LinkedIn. ChatGPT actually, whenever I'm doing my research on ChatGPT and where you can see where it's pulling its information from, LinkedIn is always at the top. So talk about your properties, your brand on LinkedIn, but remember that there is a way of structuring your content on LinkedIn too, so that AI search tools love it and human beings love it too. And it really is basic stuff that actually most of us already know. Don't write walls and walls of text. Stick to 1 point per paragraph where you've included research or numbers, cite your sources, make the opening line a killer line, summarize what you're going to talk about in the first 1 to 2 sentences. So really, really simple stuff. And this is something that you can go off and do straight away, where you do have the opportunity to speak at events, to speak at webinars, to speak at podcasts about your brand. Please grab that opportunity with both hands, because as soon as you are mentioned on that event's organization's website, again, you are giving AI search tools more context, more juice to learn about you. I've spoken at quite a few events over the last few years, and even now when you look up Neely Khan on any LLM, it gives me a lot of credibility, because one of the first things LLMs say to the users is she can be trusted because she's spoken at so many events. So yeah, it's great. Really, really helpful.
May I ask a question? I find it so interesting that they're pulling from LinkedIn. If you think about a guest that's and LinkedIn being a work platform, it's like that's kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I'm going to be
Who knows?
I don't know why. I know that it's definitely happening. It's definitely the leading advice that a lot of geo specialists will be giving you right now. I wonder if it's because LLMs kind of, they see LinkedIn as a trustworthy platform, because it doesn't really pull from Facebook, from what I've seen. LinkedIn, YouTube, 100%. Yeah.
So interesting. Good to know. Thank you, Neely.
Okay, authority. So again, you might have noticed by this point that actually what AI search tools love is very, very similar to what ordinary human beings love too. So the things that AI search tools are looking for, your human guests will be looking for too. Just like human beings, AI search tools are looking for reasons to know that you are credible, that you can be trusted, that you are the bee's knees. So authority is really, really important. How do you showcase authority? Now, for a really long time, I was a little bit anti-awards, because I used to think they were a bit icky, and I used to think I hate this idea of people like putting me on a pedestal and vice versa. And so many of them feel like they're, it's pay to play. But actually, over the years, I have learned that putting yourself up for genuinely credible awards is a really, really good way to elevate your authority in the industry. Obviously, do your research, make sure that going for the right ones. There are lots of not very nice award givers out there, but so long as you're associating yourselves with the correct platforms, again, it's a really, really good way of positioning yourselves as, we are the go-to people in the Midlands, in New York, whatever, wherever you are. If you have the resources and the budget, and I know when I say these two letters, when I say PR, people immediately think, oh gosh, that must be so expensive. It doesn't have to be, right? When we talk about PR, we're simply talking about the practice of getting other publishing companies, other platforms to talk about you. That is all PR is. It does not need to cost you 10 grand a month. Also, content agencies are not PR agencies, so make sure that you understand the difference between the two, because they can be very easily misconstrued. So when we work with clients, for example, obviously we work on the content side of things, and we also help by introducing them to other PR companies, maybe other news platforms. If they are doing something genuinely interesting, which they will be because they're working with us, shameless plug, then we will introduce them to the relevant publications, news channels, and help them create a story that they can then share with that platform. Now, again, this really is gold. There is nothing better for AI search tools than other platforms talking about your brand. Gone are the days of the content on your website being enough. This really, really is the biggest thing. I know it sounds like a lot of hard work, but again, if you start thinking about it now and working towards it now, it will 1,000,000% pay off in the long run. So even if this week or next week you think about one publication, whether it's short-term rentals, whatever it is, and think about maybe an insight, a bit of news, something that you can share with them in a way that's not like salesy or preachy, just genuinely good news. Maybe it's something you can think about later down the line. Maybe you're working on a rebrand, whatever it is. Think about how you can share that bit of news with third-party platforms. Really, really brilliant way of making sure, and actually a really quick way of making sure that AI search tools are citing you and trusting you in the right way. And speaking of trust, that brings us on to our final point, trust, of course, because why would anyone spend money with you if they do not trust you? So I used to work with, and then also I stepped in as MD for this company, for a company called iPrac, which is a verification basically a verification platform specifically for short-term rental companies. And working with them for a number of years really helped me understand the importance of trust marketing. Every single bit, every single decision or choice we make in life, in our day-to-day lives, where we buy our cup of coffee, where we send our children to school, whether we're going to hire a babysitter over another one to look after our children, it is obviously based on trust, even more than it's based on money, than anything else. We have to feel that we can trust whoever it is we are spending money with. And the larger the investment, emotional, financial, whatever, the larger the need for trust. So if somebody is paying you to literally sleep and spend the night at your property, the investment, the emotional investment there is great. So trust is actually a huge part, and actually the lack of trust in the short-term rental industry, in my opinion, is still a huge problem, because there is a reason why people don't really think twice before booking with a hotel. And booking with a short-term rental sometimes can feel like a lottery game. Emma was telling us, she was sharing with me at the beginning of our conversation that, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Emma, she bought a short-term rental here in the Midlands, and it was not quite what she expected. And unfortunately, this does happen, and it dissolves the trust in our industry. So we must accept that a lot of guests, especially if they are already kind of used to beautiful hotel lobbies and staying at hotels, there is still some reservations around booking short-term rentals. So creating trust is massively important. Simple ways you can do that is looking up the relevant industry accreditations. Take out some time, again, this week or next week, to research which accreditations you can put yourselves up for and display on your website, and then create some lovely content around. Credible author bios, and by that I mean, if on your website you have like a founding story, put it on there, talk about your journey. This makes people trust you alongside a photo of yourself, your wife, your dog, whatever it is. People like that. They are more likely to trust you when they see content like this. And make sure that the same story and the same images are on LinkedIn, or on YouTube, or on whatever other platforms you're sharing information on. And then little things like make sure your domain name is secure, make sure you have transparent policies. If a small percentage of the money you make goes to a charity, be transparent and clear about that. These are all great trust signals. And again, this gives AI search tools a reason to recommend you. AI search tools very rarely, very, very rarely recommend brands that they do not trust. And another point that a lot of people don't think about, AI search tools, they also have the power to talk about you negatively. So if they don't like what they see, if they think there's some shady business going on, they will absolutely say that. It might not even be completely factual, but don't give them any reasons to incorrectly represent your brand. Right, so that is EEAT. Now, so I feel like there's a lot there to go away with. How much time do we have? Sorry, Emma, just so
Let me see. We have a good 10 minutes.
That is absolutely perfect. It's really important to me that I share this. I appreciate that a lot of you have joined this webinar to learn how to get found on AI. And I hope some of the points that I've shared are things that you can leave with and start actioning straight away. But it's also really, 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 really important to me to get across that optimizing your content for AI search does not mean having the personality of a toaster. So it does not mean being boring, sacrificing your point of difference. One, because your human guests are so thirsty for a point of difference right now. Everything across the internet at the moment, because of this over-reliance on AI tools, has become very samey, very vanilla, very beige. You know, there are so many reports, so many articles out at the moment about the lack of differentiation across the hospitality industry and just brands as a whole, and how human beings are actively looking for experiences and things that are reminding them that we are indeed human beings. Now, if you are to follow all of the strategies and start implementing all of the strategies that we've spoken about, so, you know, thinking about EEAT, you can do all of that while still ensuring that you are keeping your brand tone of voice, your tonality, your individuality intact. And I'm going to share a very cool thing that we are doing and we are about to launch with an amazing short-term rental brand as a bit of a case study, just to give you an insight onto how this can work. So if we look at the next slide. So Abode Luxury Rentals, some of you might have heard of it. It is owned, co-founded by a lovely husband and wife couple called Rachel and Rob Allday. And they have been in the business for about 25 plus years, I believe. And they have an amazing story. They set up
Neely, you're breaking up.
while they were also planning their wedding. I know, it's such a great story. You can actually read the story on there. Rachel got in touch with me last year, and she said, plus ultra luxury. You right?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh no, everything is looking okay for me.
You're
I
back
have full
now.
bar.
You're
Okay,
back
great.
now.
Okay, yay. Okay, let me know if I break up again.
I will.
So Rachel was in touch with me last year and she said, look, we're an established brand. We have 200 plus ultra luxury mountain properties, and we are known for having a really good product and service offering. We attract the best of the best clientele. People pay a lot of money to stay with us. However, I feel that we are losing the soul of our brand. So this was a really interesting problem she came to us with, because a lot of the time when we work with brands, they're still trying to work on their positioning. But with Abode Luxury Rentals, they very much, their brand was already strong, which it is, but they felt like something was missing. Rachel said to me that at the moment, there is nothing that is differentiates us from our competitors. You know, these newbies who've recently jumped onto the scene, they also have these ultra luxury properties, and there's nothing differentiating us from them, not even price. It's all exactly the same. How do we differentiate ourselves? So, and this is the part of the work that I love the most. What we've done with Abode Luxury Rentals is we have taken every one of their properties. So there are 220 luxury properties in their portfolio now. And we have written, not using any AI tools, we have written a fiction founding story for each property. Now, the stories are fiction, they're magical, people know this, but they are based on the geographical location of that particular property, the history of that property, the conversations we've had with the owners of each property, and the kind of vibe we want to get across. That fiction founding story sits on their website, sits a little bit separate to their listing, because we still have a very clear property listing, but now we have this additional layer of a fiction founding story, which gives each property a theme, a brand, and a life of its own. But we haven't just stopped there, because flat copy counts for nothing if you're not doing anything with it. We've taken each story and then we have shown Abode's team how to bring that story to life physically into the property in inexpensive ways. So say, for example, one of the property's fiction stories is about a fisherman who fell in love with a poor seamstress at that property many, many years ago. And the only way they could communicate with each other was by leaving each other love letters underneath the floorboards of that particular house. What we've then said to Abode is we can very easily recreate these love letters. It's not going to cost a lot of money, and hide them in the house and then invite guests to find them. One of the stories is based on a magical lantern, and then we've recreated this magical ancient lantern and just placed it with a small note in that property. So we've gone from having a luxury short-term rental stay to a themed experience. Now, as well as adding to the experience, as well as adding to the fact that the team are now going to increase, so there is a fiscal benefit to this. They're increasing their daily their rates because of this, because they are offering so much more now than just a luxury short-term rental stay, which is fantastic. We've increased the perceived value of each property just by using story. But as well as doing all of these things, we have given AI search tools so much more context and juice about the brand itself. Now, like I said, the stories are fictional. We've made it very clear that the stories are fictional, so human beings understand it and AI search tools understand it too. But we've also made it very clear that these fiction stories are based on real life experiences, facts. We've also made it very clear, so if you go onto Abode's website now and you click on their About page, they have now repositioned themselves as the only story-themed luxury mountain short-term rental company in the world. We've used a sentence like that. And again, that is gold, not only for human beings, but for AI search tools. Because now when a traveler asks ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, oh, I'm going to this part of the world. I'm looking for something different. I'm looking for an immersive experience. I'm just looking for something where my kids and I can just have a great time, because this is how people are searching and speaking to LLMs at the moment. We have given AI search tools all the information they need to recommend Abode luxury rentals first. And anybody who's interested in seeing the results, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, because we are building a case study to show the numbers and the difference in mentions ever since we've repositioned Abode Law. So this is a big example. It's essentially been a little bit of a rebrand, but it was really important for me to share that, you can still be creative and still have lots of fun and still lead with story, because that is very much who I am. I'm very much a story person, and you can still be relevant for AI. There are lots and lots of people right now, all well-meaning, all very, very helpful, who are talking about optimizing your content for AI. And a lot of what they're sharing is absolutely spot on. But what enough people are not speaking about is how do you optimize your content for AI and still make sure that you are appeasing human beings too. So if there's anything else that I'd like to leave you with, is that while you're thinking about EEAT, because I feel like I've given people a lot to think about, also take some time to think about what is your brand's point of difference. When people do find you on AI, what is going to ultimately make them choose you? And that is, I think we have one more slide. Hey, stay in the loop. Okay, so we've got, like I said, please do connect with me. I do share a lot of content around GEO and story. Those are basically the only two things I speak about, with the occasional coffee post or post about my little girl. And there is a QR code with access to our GEO copywriting report. It's free. I don't believe you have to share your email address. You can just access that straight away. It is quite a meaty read, but it's really useful for you if you are looking to get found on AI and still write in a way that retains the tone of voice of your short-term rental brand. Thank you so much.
I really love that, Neely. And I love how you've taken, well, AI is here. We need to be optimized for how people are searching now, and behavior is changing. So we have to meet people where they now are. But if you lose the point of differentiation and your hospitality and humanity, it's never going to convert because we're still people working with people and offering experiences and holidays to people. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people are losing out on, or
Mhm.
not connect, not really, it's not clicking with them. And I think you've really explained it very beautifully. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's all about a balance, isn't it? And it is
Mm.
hard. I know
Mm.
it's, it requires practice and consistency, but it's all about the long game. And I do say this to everyone who works with us or invests in Kahani. Kahani means story, by the way, in Hindi, for anyone who is interested in knowing why it's called Kahani. A lot of people think I just use that word because it sounds like my surname, but that's just a happy coincidence.
Mm.
I think, a lot of this really is the long game. It is about investing the time and the effort now and then seeing results, over the course of a few weeks, months, but it's so worth it. And what I find really interesting is a lot of the work that people were doing maybe a few years ago, that is now becoming so beneficial and helpful for AI search tools.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have two questions.
Thank you.
I've been answering some as we've gone along. So a question from Michelle. She said, where exactly do we put our first person stories? Would it be on a direct booking website? Would it be on Airbnb? Would it be on a blog? Where is the best place to start?
Oh, that's a great question. So I would say on all those places where you can. So starting off with your direct booking website, because that really is the heart of your brand.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you'd agree with that too.
Yeah.
If you do have social media channels, obviously, if you can create like a micro version of your story, video content, also a great place to do that. If you are using OTAs, again, there is an opportunity for you to share a little bit about yourself. In fact, with OTAs very much acting like this massive marketplace, it's a great way. I know we have to be quite careful with it because we're not allowed to really direct people onto our direct booking websites, but there are ways you can kind of immerse your story into that content too. But my first bit of advice would be definitely start with your direct booking websites and the channels that you own, like your website, like your email list. If you're sending emails, which is another great way to connect with your audience, using that too.
Lovely. And then with limited time, a question from me, Fiona, with limited time, which is the best social media platform to add content to? If you could choose one for hospitality.
For hospitality, so research tells us that LinkedIn is the best one. However, I do understand with hospitality facing businesses, guests are probably using LinkedIn for work, and then they come across your brand, and that's great too. But they will probably look at
Instagram. We have a frozen Neely again. I think Neely was saying Instagram, and that does make sense from a storytelling perspective and certainly from the visual perspective as well. Is she back?
and
You're back in the room.
YouTube create. Yes. Okay, I think I'm back. YouTube.
Right.
We're working with a lot of brands at the moment who are investing in YouTube.
YouTube. Okay, so you would say, I think it was Instagram you were saying, and YouTube. Really good places to be. Okay, interesting. And on YouTube, are the LLMs pulling from videos or the captions or a bit of both?
So they are 100% pulling from captions from the conversations happening in the comments.
Right. Okay.
But also the videos themselves too. So if you have captions on the videos, that's great as well.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you very much. Lovely. We've answered all of the questions. There was one question about touch date actually, which from Elizabeth, which was a little question around the AI chatbot. Elizabeth, I would recommend sending a email to support@touchday.com and ask them your question because they'll be able to give you a couple of different ways that you can deal with that. I haven't heard of this issue, not an issue, but just guests not realizing that it's AI, thinking that it's a person responding, which is amazing. But then you maybe want guests to use a different channel to get in touch with you. So yeah, it's support@touchday.com. Lovely. Thank you so much, Neely. I really enjoyed this conversation, and we have kept time actually. I'm very proud of us. So there's two more QR codes here, but folks can scan those as they wish. But it's so nice talking to someone who isn't being like super hype about AI and you've got to do this or you get left behind. It's more this is how you can enhance things. It's very practical. It's kind of common sense-ish in a way. Once you've heard it, you're like, oh, it all makes sense. So thank you for giving us more of a practical, grounded in reality approach to understanding how AI can help us. It's going to be okay. And I love the story about the letters and how you've taken those fictional stories and brought them into the properties, kind of like a theme park, kind of a Disneyland feel, which I think is really beautiful and unexpected, especially for a luxury property.
Yeah, I'm so into theming. I mean, it's one of the reasons I love theme parks, and I
There you
think,
go.
yeah, I think, you know, you can just increase the value, the perceived value of something by just sticking a meaningful theme around it. You know, a meaningful one, not just a community one, but it really
That's
makes
great.
sense.
Love it. Well, thank you very much. I found this super interesting. It's given me lots of things to think about. And thank you everyone who has stayed to the end. Pretty much everyone has stayed, so thank you so much. Really appreciate it on this very hot day. We'll follow up with the slides and a recording. And yes, really appreciate everyone taking the time to be here with us. And thank you once again, Neely, for being our guest today. All right. See you all on the next webinar. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Neely. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.